Lucasfilm Games has a new Star Wars game coming, and it's supposedly reviving an older game.
Say what?
May the Force.
The Force will be with you. Always.
Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your source for everything Star Wars gaming. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sydney Laura. How are you doing?
Hello.
I'm still getting used to this desk setup that we got here. I constantly have to stop taking vocalizing like I'm a news anchor. Welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Uplink podcast, which is not helped by the intro we just did. True. So, I don't think, also, just follow up from last episode, we're not wearing the same clothes as we did the last two.
Yes.
Which is good.
Yes, wearing something new.
I've got my nice Hawaiian Star Wars shirt on. And you've got a lovely green jacket that you've had for a long while.
Many, many years. This is Wildflower.
It's great. So, as we teased before, we've got a bunch of new Star Wars news to go over. So let's jump in and start talking about the new Star Wars game headed by Amy Hennig's new studio.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
So before we started recording, and before I streamed today, because we are recording this on Saturday, I had you do some research.
Indeed.
On Project RagTag, which was Visceral Games'. It was one of like the first wave. It was announced with Fallen Order. They had Battlefront 2 in this like sizzle reel. They teased another game that was Amy Hennig's game with Visceral Studios. It had Doug Chiang, who was the visual director for the prequels. So it had like a lot of really big names on it. And if you don't know Amy Hennig, she was a producer and a big part of the Uncharted series. Like, she was a big part of that whole franchise, which, I mean, we both love Uncharted.
Yeah, that gets me pumped up.
Yeah. You're on the third game, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, those games are so good. Just a side tangent. It's been forever since we've gotten anything like that. I mean, you could look at maybe Last of Us 2. I think that's pretty similar. Same studio. Definitely a different vibe. It's not as fun as like the Uncharted games, which is basically like Indiana Jones in video game form, but with like its own little special flavor. Still haven't watched the new movie or anything like that, but like...
That's true. We need to do that.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know if it's streaming anywhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that just totally...
It wasn't on like my super to watch list.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that like I would probably just watch at the house, not like go to the theater for.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, it's probably just going to be bad, but it's going to be that fun bad where like you expect it to be bad and you don't go in with it like a whole lot of expectations. You don't expect it to be a cinematic masterpiece or anything like that.
Yep.
But we'll watch it streaming or get it rented on something.
Yeah, sometime.
Yeah, in the future.
When we see it and we're like, oh my gosh, there it is.
Yeah, look, there it is. Oh my goodness.
That.
Yeah. But Amy Hennig was a huge part of the Uncharted franchise, and it seems so far like I've had a lot of discussion online, and I've seen a lot of discussion online of people wondering when a multiplayer game for Star Wars is going to be coming. And I think after the failure somewhat of Battlefront 2 with that whole launch controversy and DICE and again, honestly, like all of the other, anything except for like Apex and like Warzone, maybe Fortnite is another good example. Like those are the key players that have been very consistent all the way through up until now, even through the pandemic, of launching and delivering on a live service game. And I think that's what we need, and that's what the industry as a whole wants from Star Wars or from a lot of games. So I think they've decided that, say, hey, we don't have the strength of our studios or relationships with developers to make that kind of game, but we know, at least from Lucasfilm's experience, they can deliver on some stories and they know where they want to go. And I think that's the future of Star Wars games, is they want those storytelling aspects.
Yeah. I mean, that is Star Wars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, I would love another Battlefront game. I don't want it from DICE, like I've said before. I think they should be blacklisted from the Star Wars license because they don't have the vision, the capability, or the consistency that a Battlefront 3 would want or need. And I hate to say it because I'm friends with a lot of people at DICE, and I know they work really hard, but they can't deliver it on the way that I want it to. And I don't think that, I mean, considering Battlefront 2015 was lackluster, I love the game. Like, it's honestly, I have so much nostalgia for that game, but it was lackluster. It didn't review very well. People enjoyed it, but then, like, as the DLCs came out, the community was disjointed, so there was that part of things. They were still doing gaming like it was done in the early 2010s instead of like the future of gaming. So there's that side of things. Battlefront 2 had a huge launch controversy. Eventually it came around, but then they canceled it. It had so much possibility, so much opportunity to be fantastic, and it had so much headroom that they could have gone with, but they canceled it, which is sad.
Yeah.
Respawn is rocking it out with Star Wars games. I think they're going to be doing a great job. I think we have like 10 Star Wars games that are in active production, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But EA, back in the day, they had a huge plan for Star Wars games. They canceled a lot of them. One of the things that they canceled was this thing called Project RagTag, which is Visceral Games' Star Wars game. Amy Hennig was going to be a part of it. It was going to be this big storytelling ragtag group of scavengers, bounty hunters was thrown around a little bit. Visceral Games ultimately ended up being dissolved as a company because of this game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they had announcement for that game. They had a lot of creative differences around the production of that game. Creative differences. They eventually, I think Amy Hennig left and was no longer part of the project. And then they decided to go almost towards this more multiplayer MMO, online, living, breathing game type of thing. But that went through development hell as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that would do well. What with, is it Knights of the Old Republic? Is that
SWTOR, Star Wars, The Old Republic.
The Old Republic. There we go. With that going on, like you can't.
That and too, like Visceral didn't have a whole lot of experience with those kinds of games, and they didn't really have the team necessary for it too, because they were a smaller team.
Yeah.
So they had that, and then shortly after that announcement, they announced that, oh no, this company's just gone, which is crazy to think about. It's
like bam, bam, bam.
Pretty much, like it was just boom, 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 one thing after the other.
Wow.
Which is crazy. But reportedly, now that we got a little bit of the understanding here, and we'll dig into more specifics of what this means. Amy Hennig and their production development studio gaming company called Skydance New Media is creating a new Star Wars game. Studio has begun an exciting collaboration with Lucasfilm Games. A new Star Wars adventure is on the way from one of gaming's most acclaimed creators. Skydance New Media today announced a collaboration with Lucasfilm Games to develop and produce a narrative-driven action-adventure game featuring an original story in the Star Wars galaxy. Helming Skydance New Media is award-winning writer and director Amy Hennig, a game industry legend whose credits include the blockbuster series Legacy of Kain, Jak and Daxter, and Uncharted. And on this, she says, I've often described how seeing Star Wars in 1977 essentially rewired my 12-year-old brain, shaping my creative life and future indelibly, she said. I'm elated to be working with Lucasfilm Games again to tell interactive stories in the galaxy that I love. She's got to drop that, like, again. Because it's true that we don't know the specifics of it. Apparently, she left on pretty good terms, but apparently good terms with Lucasfilm, not necessarily EA. But I'm glad that she started a new production company, that they're working on something really cool, and this is going to be good. And then Doug Riley vice president of Lucasfilm Games, says, "We couldn't be more thrilled to be working again with Amy. She and Skydance New Media team have the talent and ambition to create a unique Star Wars adventure. Their vision for making narrative-driven and engaging interactive entertainment makes this collaboration very exciting. We're working hard with their team of experienced and talented developers, and we're looking forward to sharing more with Star Wars fans when the time is right." Good. Don't announce any, no date.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
Don't. Just don't even. Yeah.
What did your research find when you were looking up RagTag?
I got a lot about what used to be, like what was going to be the RagTag.
And you found a lot of concept art that I didn't
did.
even see. That was really cool.
It was really cool. Super grungy and like I don't know, very rough, very RagTag.
Yeah.
So totally fit the bill as far as their code name goes. Yeah, I found kind of the storyline that they were going to go with the RagTag game. And I think most are speculating that it's just going to be a new paint, like a new coat of paint on that game for this game that they're going to come out with, which is cool. So mostly found that it's going to be kind of gunslingers. And,
it's supposedly going to be like more Western than we've seen Star Wars be a lot of times.
Yeah. And it's going to be taking place probably in like the original trilogy era. So a lot of like, I think it seems like we're going to be revisiting a lot of like those
known
places.
Locations, which is good.
Tatooine and going through the destroyed Alderaan and stuff like that.
Oh, that'd be so awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine if like parts of Alderaan are still there that are just floating around? That would be so cool. Yes, please give it to me.
Fun. Yeah. From what I could research, though, it seems like it already had like a pretty solid storyline.
It just got in development hell. Like they had a lot of. From what I've gathered, there was a lot of fingers in the pie, cooks in the kitchen that were trying to change up what they had originally laid out it to be, because they had from what I've gathered and what you've been saying too with your research, like they had a strong vision of what that story was, and then people started trying to change it. Yeah. And that's where it started falling apart.
Yeah. Sounds like it's going to be like a revenge story sort of thing. Yeah.
Revenge Western is like...
Oh, yeah.
Like, I have two loves in entertainment. One is Westerns, and the other is cyberpunk.
There you go.
That's like my loves as a person.
It's funny because that seems like two opposite ends of the spectrum, but it's really not. It's just...
I love
past and futuristic.
Yeah, I love it when Star Wars goes Western too. Yep. Like I think they do a fantastic job with it.
Yeah, it definitely seems heavily in like the human aspect of it, and not so much in like the aliens.
Speaking my language. Yeah, that's exactly. I don't want like this broad galaxy sweeping adventure most of the time. Sometimes that works great, but for something like this. If they get into the human side of things, that character-driven, those interactive moments where you get to see that, there's character development, strife, conflict, resolution. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Definitely seems like it's going to be more in like the underworld-ish feel, where it's like a lot of the crime bosses and lords and money-driven characters. And so it sounds super cool, at least... what was. Who knows what they're going to adjust in this new what is it called? Walton? I think that's what their code name is now.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So keep your ears out. Interesting.
And we theorized as a community whether or not this was a continuation of Project RagTag. And according to some reports, it is. They are picking up kind of where they left off, but it's going to be, like you said, a new coat of paint on it. They may make different decisions now that they've had a little bit more experience, or they've wrapped their head around it a little bit more. They probably have had conversations with Lucasfilm of how that needs to go with their direction of Star Wars. What characters can they play with? It seems, at least from what I've heard, that they're trying to keep it more with their original characters instead of looping in other outside cameos, which I think would be cool. It would be great if they could create their own IP, and maybe that's something that they develop even further as we get deeper into Star Wars. Like we could see a Project RagTag series, because that's something that we haven't seen from Disney at least, a longer running series.
Yeah.
So far, it's only gotten to 2.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if Star Wars Jedi is one of those franchises. I think it has the legs to be.
Yeah.
And I think if EA has success with it, like they did with the first one, I foresee this being like a trilogy or a continuation of a series. That would be great.
Yeah.
Because that's like, if you look at Jedi Academy or like you see those games,
Yeah.
like they had some of those series of games. I would love to see
They're so
something like
great.
that. I would also like to see standalone stuff, but like if they could create their own story and their own valuable characters with their own motivations outside of just putting in other characters, I think that'd be so cool.
Yeah. I mean, it sounded like there was 2 main protagonists, and I think you would mostly be playing as the male protagonist, but then there was also a female, and they were like, it sounds
Could
like
you like
there's
flip
like
in
a
between them? Like, was that one of those things? I think
I
they were
would
playing with that
imagine.
idea. Like, you could play certain storylines with this character, and then you'd play certain story kind. Like, parts of it they'll be together, and
Right.
then like you hop in between them as the story progresses. And I think with
Interesting.
technology how it is, especially with how fast SSDs are, that's been like a really popular thing. Like the game Medium
Yeah.
we played.
True.
Like you hop in between those 2 different views. I think that'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool. It also sounds like they're wanting to continue the story on because they have these 2 strong characters where they can kind of branch off and
That would be
do
so cool.
not necessarily like cameos or anything, but like
They could
just make
create their own
more.
little part of the galaxy.
yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of what they're going for.
That would be so
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Yes. I want that so much. And it seems like everyone's really excited about it. The other thing that they mentioned too is the same studio is working with Marvel to craft an all-new game with an original story and their unique take for beloved Marvel characters. Which I think that's cool. Like if they could cement themselves into like telling these really great stories within like the Disney universe and they get that experience with them and they create loved and popular games, I could totally see that being like this is the first step into them like building out like a pretty awesome universe of games.
Yeah. Ugh, and it's needed, you know? It's like we kind of want to see this in Star Wars.
Yeah. And I think too, like hopefully they're really investing in getting a lot more people hired because 2 games for a single studio is definitely a lot. So I don't think we'll see this game for a number of years.
Dang it.
But there was a report relatively recently that Star Wars Eclipse is apparently in a better state, that it's no longer being expected to be 2028, but it could be as soon as 2026. So 4 years, which is better than that.
I guess. But also
I
it
love
might
the-
need to go to 2028 to
Yeah.
have a decent
Exactly.
game experience.
Yeah, as we've seen so far. Like, more time the better. Don't rush it if you don't have to. Don't rush it even if you have to, honestly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not going to go well.
The probably the only other thing that I really researched was kind of this idea that the timing was wrong with Project RagTag. And I guess something that I would be curious to know your thoughts on is do you think games like Uncharted now will work? You know, like do you think that's
I think
something
so.
that's needed or that
I mean,
people want?
You see something like the success of Fallen Order
Yeah.
and how EA has like for a while there, before Fallen Order, before we've been seeing more of those single player games be popular, it was the dark times. Like people were wondering if we would ever see any story driven games again because everyone was moving towards like that online everything all the time.
Yeah.
I think there is more a place for those story driven games than there has been ever in the past.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more of those story driven games also incorporate online aspects. But I think there is a huge desire and audience for those single player games. Like I'm all about those single player games because it's something that I can go through in a sitting. I'm fine to pay $60 if it's a good experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Give me a great solid experience. I don't care if it's 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's 10. If it's great, I will pay that money if it's something that I want to play.
Right. Yeah, I would agree.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's good that they're like investing more into those single players. Maybe they have like, I think ultimately they do need a multiplayer aspect of Star Wars as an IP in the gaming space. But I think there's other game developers and companies that are doing better than even Disney can. The only advantage that Lucasfilm Games would have is that it's Star Wars over the other companies that are doing stuff like Apex. They've done a fantastic job of keeping an audience, keeping a live service, and creating characters and stories that people want to play as, and outside of the game itself, and using some of the aspects of characters and the maps to tell these stories. I don't think, unless they invest heavily into its own studio that has a huge team, that's only the only thing that they're working on, they can't match that. I don't know if they necessarily need to. Obviously, I'd love to see an online game, but maybe that's just something that they're like, we can't really add anything into the gaming space. So let's just do what we know we can do right. We can tell great stories in Star Wars, because Star Wars is ultimately a storytelling medium. Like that's what it is.
Yeah. It's a platform for more stories.
So I think that's a good spot. Like, obviously I'd love to see something like a Battlefront 3, but I don't know if necessarily they can add anything unique to it that that would add to the gaming experience.
Yeah. It's almost like we need more built onto Star Wars to be able to get something fresh and new for that, like an online experience.
Yeah. You would have to do it where you tell a story, and I don't think that they're ready for that right now. They don't have a studio that can say, hey, we're going to tell an interactive story that progresses over the course of seasons and is a live service game that may be free to play even, and we're going to recoup stuff with skins, season passes, that kind of stuff. But it's going to, one, fit the Star Wars universe and carry forward an interesting story. I think they need more time, they need more resources, and they need a new developer that can do that.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting. So much to think about, so much to talk about. But until we have more details, I think we're going to call it that for a little bit. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader. Yeah. This podcast is a production of Uplink Media Group. Uplink is a podcast network dedicated to highlighting the love and experience of gaming and pop culture. Check out our other shows, The Battlefield Show, Star Wars Uplink, and The Forge, the Halo Infinite podcast, as well as our YouTube channels for even deeper dives into Battlefield, Star Wars, and more. YouTube.com/Uplink podcast and StarWarsUplink.com.
Only different in your mind. You must unlearn what you have learned.
Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader. This is I think it was Entertainment Weekly or something like that. There was a big newspaper magazine. There's the word I was looking for. Magazine that did an interview with Ewan McGregor, and he said, when I saw Vader coming down the hall towards me, it scared the out of me.
Interesting.
Yes. And that was surprising to me. It's like, I didn't think that Darth Vader would have such a huge presence. I thought he would be more of this ever-looming figure, and we'd see like him in parts of things, and maybe Obi-Wan like sees him. But it looks, from the promotional material that we've been getting with the new poster that we saw, Obi-Wan's going to fight Vader. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Oh my gosh. I'm almost cringing. Like,
I don't want it to happen, but
I know.
But like my inner child was like
obviously, yeah, but I don't know if my heart can take it.
Yeah. I wonder what that means for like Ben going into hiding. Like, what does that mean for our viewpoint of the original trilogy? Because I think that's going to have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to do that is going to drive Obi-Wan eventually back to that point where he is on Tatooine permanently, forever, to become Ben. Old Ben. That's going to be, oh man. I hope they do it well.
I don't know. The more, the higher the stakes, it always feels like the more like Disney-ified it gets.
Yeah.
And like the more
They try to
like,
make it bigger, more.
Yeah, and it's like, does it have to be?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It makes me scared because it makes me
Yeah.
feel like, oh no, they're gonna screw something up.
Uh-huh.
Like the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
Something's gonna go wrong.
Mhm.
It's not gonna match with the original trilogy, and it's gonna screw up my idea and my nostalgia.
yeah.
Like, don't mess with it, please.
Yeah. The bigger it gets, the harder it is to make it good, and the easier it is to make it fail.
Mm-hmm.
But
obviously, we want to see this.
But yeah, like Obi-Wan, after he left Anakin on the magma river, doesn't even. I wonder if they're going to get into that side of things, because I don't know necessarily if he knows yet. Like,
Who
is
he is,
that why?
right.
Is that why he has this certain point of view? Because he knows when we see Obi-Wan in the original trilogy.
Right. But does he actually know
But
that
does he know
survived?
it until then? Like, are we going to see that reveal?
That would be cool.
Yes.
Actually, because that would further the story
That's
on.
some good motivation.
Yeah.
That's just some really fun story elements.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think they're going to save that for like the very last episode?
Probably.
Yeah. I would.
Maybe.
What if they don't even face off? What they're like? That's where they end it. They just like they see each other and then bam. Wait for next season.
I don't think we're gonna get a second season. I think this is a one-off thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because it is a mini series, so it is limited series. I think at most we're gonna see like 6 episodes. So I think if that happens in the middle, and then we get to see the aftermath of it for the characters, I think that could be cool.
Nah, I think they would push it further back. Like maybe like the second to last episode.
I definitely think it'll be like late second or maybe early third act.
Yeah.
Because we need to see that conflict. We need to see that like realization.
Right. Yeah.
I think that'd be cool.
I mean, obviously, there's going to be like this ominous idea and presence about this new Sith and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So.
But oh my gosh, I would love to see the realism on his face of like, oh my gosh,
what have
I did that
Yeah.
to this guy.
Uh-huh.
Like, what have
My
I
brother.
done to? Yeah, exactly. I loved you like a brother, Anakin. Like he did that to Vader.
I think the fact that they're bringing what's his name?
Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, I think the fact that they're bringing him back for the role, right? Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he's going to be in the movie or show somewhere.
Right.
Probably
So the fact
flashbacks
that
or
they
something, I
have
don't
to
know.
have him means they're gonna have a face reveal.
How does that look though?
I don't know, but you know.
What is the context of that? Does he just
it's
like get
probably
his
just to be
face
like,
smashed in, and
you
it's
know,
like, oh my gosh,
you know
like
Disney,
like Obi-Wan's
they're-
about to kill him, and then like he realizes that's Anakin. It's like, oh my gosh.
I don't think so.
No.
No, I think it's just gonna be a straight up like take masks off. Yeah,
That's
because that's what
boring.
they've been doing.
Yeah.
Kylo, I don't know. Everyone with a mask just takes off their mask now.
The heck, they don't respect the mask anymore.
No respect to the mask. Respect the mask, everyone.
Mask up.
Yeah.
Haven't
Mask
they heard
up.
of?
COVID?
Yeah, exactly. Come on, keep the mask on,
Yeah.
bro.
You're gonna get sick. No, that's my prediction. My prediction is just gonna whip the mask off and be
They're
like,
gonna be like facing off, and he's like,
yeah.
Okay, he saw me.
I mean, he's still young, so
that's true. Yeah.
so he's not like old and truly dependent on this. I mean, he is.
I think he's
dependent.
more dependent on it.
You think so?
Because he's freshly healing. But the whole thing about his suit is it's like constantly giving him pain, so he's stronger in the Force, but he can't fully recover.
Who can
It's
fully
all
recover from that?
It's all a ploy from Sidious to keep him from healing and being even more powerful than he could be.
But to make him believe that this does make him more powerful.
But also to make him pretty dang powerful through that constant pain. He can't fully immerse himself in the dark side, but he can go pretty deep because of that hatred and the pain.
Go deep.
Yeah. So I'm really excited.
Interesting.
Apparently, season 2 of Andor is beginning shooting soon
Oh.
in September. We haven't even seen the first season. But there have
we
been
even had any teasers?
We've had some teasers, but I don't know if have we had a trailer or something? I don't know. We know it's been happening for a while, and it's going to be Cassian Andor. Cassian Andor?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cassian Andor. From Rogue One. That's about it.
That's
it's going to
about
be
all we know.
before Rogue One, obviously.
Yeah. Lifespans and all.
But we've known about it forever. So we'll see how that goes. They must be pretty confident if they're already shooting a second season before it's even been out. But apparently they're working on a lot more Star Wars shows. Acolyte's looking for its leads. Ahsoka's pretty far under development. I think like next year is going to be insane for Star Wars movies or shows. Like we could probably see 3 to 4 shows next year. We're already getting 2 this year, maybe 3. I'll have to double. We may be getting 3 or 4 this year.
Oh my gosh, really?
If we have Obi-Wan, we have the next season of Mando this year or next year? I can't remember.
I don't know.
And then Endor, I think, is maybe this year. So like that's 3 Star Wars shows. What? So I could see something like that happening.
This is madness.
Yeah.
But it's good.
I'm looking forward to it. I cannot wait for more Star Wars things. Like, it is such a great time to be a fan of Star Wars. And if you are excited for more Star Wars games, all the stuff, like the amount of content in Star Wars that we're getting is incredible. And I think it's going to be fantastic to see that variance. If you are, hit subscribe, join us for free. You can subscribe on podcast feeds wherever you find podcasts, and you can subscribe on YouTube and join us as we dive deeper. It's going to be great as we explore, and we thank you so much for listening. You find us all the places at Star Wars Uplink, and leave a review. It helps us out a ton, gets us your feedback, and we really appreciate it. And thank you so much. As always, may the Force be with you.